They walk in that room, they become yours. And you got this energy inside your soul that says, I am the number one determinant of the success or failure of my students. Hey, y'all, when you get back, kick some butt. I'll see you in the winner's circle, celebrating your victory. Let's go. 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 Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you, everybody.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 145 of the virtual AP Leadership Academy. Let me see who we got here this morning. We got Arlette Johnson, Rodney Richardson, Takesha High, Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor. We got Principal Sean Hurt. Troy Javon Cato is in the building. Michael Benton, Principal Michael Benton. Alan Cowarts in the building. Demetrius Scott, my brother. Principal Otis Kitchen II. Principal Dot McKeever Jeter. Charlena Hottie. John Hurricks. Rashard Davis out there in the 702. Donna Scherer Gant. Yolanda McKinney. Jeff Milner. We got them all in the building. Come on in. Come on in. You see I'm not in my home, but you know I don't stop this, man. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri this morning. Just walked off of a stage doing a keynote. Wore the Negro League jersey while I did it. And here I am now, man. Nothing stops me, man. Lou Saunders is in the building. Cammie Berry, Darnell McElveen, Hotep out there in Minneapolis. We got Tony McClenny, Principal Carlos Baggage in the building. Stacy Joseph, Lysandra Brackens, Jamal Wilkes is here. Hey, thanks for giving me that update on the quality because I wasn't sure. So we good. Brenda Canty is in the building out there in the BK, Brooklyn. Marguerite Simpson-Lackard is in the building. Justin McMillan. Cynthia Farmer, Ohio Girl Jones. I ain't seen you in a minute, Ohio Girl Jones. I'm glad to see you back. Coach Central's in the building. There's the queen I was looking for. My wife, Kimberly Broughton. Kafele is in the building. Man, I ain't seen my wife in a minute, man. I've been on the road since Sunday or something, man. I mean, man, I couldn't even fit all my clothes in the bag. I had to put some jeans in the computer bag, man. That's how, but I'm going home after this. Right? We got Kara Simpkins, Tanita Smith in the building, Sherry Nance, Casey Washington, Lakeisha Mabry is in the building, Ronald Pugh, Grace Castaneda, Tara Blackshire Scott. I ain't seen you in a minute. Yes, I did. I saw you. We got the boss educator. She rocked the house last week, man. Them YouTube views, they blazing, man. Y'all watching that video, right? Tina Simpson in the building. So that was Dr. LaQuanta in Nelson. If you didn't see last week's broadcast, go back and check it out on YouTube when we finish this one. We got Tabitha LaQuise Lawson Seward. I probably messed that up a little bit, but you know I got you. Vanessa Zeskins in the building. Colleen Laurie's in the building. There's Dr. Tammy Taylor. Cheryl and Andrea Passion for his presence. I like that. She's in the building. Courtney Gardner, Maisha Nicole. She said, morning, Unc. I see you, Maisha. Good to see you. Good to see you. We got Rebecca Tomlin, Vicky Gallman Baxter. That's part of my Black Educators Rock family. Good to see you up there in Buffalo. Brandon May, Cammie Berry. I probably said your name 3 times. September Daniels. I appreciate you, boss educator. I try to do my part, man. Lakeisha Mabry, I got one more, and I'm getting ready to get it rocking, y'all. Arcella Austri, Abisola, Ashun, I'm going to try, man, Ashun Tolu in New Jersey, right? And then I think, I got to shout out Melissa Jones Chunu was in the building. Clifford Perkins, I see you. Y'all, I got to get it going. So let me say to y'all, let me see what Karen's saying. Hang on, y'all. I got the job from AP the principal. Thank you, Principal Kafele. Good morning from Tampa. That's Karen Fletcher. Clap her up, y'all. Karen Fletcher just got the job. I met a few this week, man. They told me they got the job, man. Young man out in Tulare, California, man. And I'll tell you more in a little bit. Let's go. We got Philly in the building. I know you're feeling yourself with them Eagles. Octavia Tokley is in the building. Look here, y'all. I got to go. Good morning. I know them people are in the room next door. They like, you ain't tell us about this now. Greetings. Welcome to week 145. And I don't know about you, but let me ask you the question, how you feeling? Well, let me speak for me. The folks next to me, I just got to yell one time, maybe two, but I got to get it out of me because I didn't do it last week, so I got to get it out of me. I just want you to know that I'm on fire. Woo! That's it. No more yelling. Hey, y'all, I am on fire, y'all. What a week. I had a great time in Denver, man. Man, we were out there with Principal Julia Rich at her school. I was in, I don't even remember. I was in Tulare, California at the counselors conference. I talked to counselors too, y'all. They ain't just leaders and teachers. And now here in St. Louis, I just walked off the stage, man. My man, Daryl Diggs, got this conference out here. He'll be on the platform in the spring. But man, we had a good time. But let's get into some things. Today is February the 4th. It is the 4th day of Black History Month. And hit the share button, by the way. Hit the retweet button. And I just learned recently you could share from YouTube. So hit the share button on YouTube, take it right to Facebook. I didn't even realize that till the other day. So LinkedIn, hit the repost, right? So y'all hit all them things, man. Let these folks know we are here for week 145. But let me say this to you real quick, man. We are in the 4th day of Black History Month. I just want to say this real quick because I want to bring up my guests, man. I got two dynamite guests here waiting for me to finish. Every Black History Month, I always launch it with Carter G. Woodson, the founder of what was once called Negro History Week. I'm rocking the Negro League Steelheads. This is the Seattle Steelheads. You don't see that S, but it's their team way out in Seattle. People think about the Negro Leagues being in the Midwest and the South and the Northeast. Nah, they was even out west, man. Seattle Steelheads. And Carter G. Woodson was the founder of what was once called Negro History Week. He created it 1926, the second week of February. So no, it's not it's not in February because somebody, some conspiracy and made it the shortest month and put it there. No, it's because it was celebrated as a week and it evolved into a month. But as I always start off in February, Dr. Woodson authored The Miseducation of the Negro. And that passage that is in that book, in that introduction, blew my mind. And I just want to recite it real quick. This will be the second time today in the multiple times this week. But he said, when you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand here or over yonder. He will find his quote unquote proper place and he will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary, period. That passage is what solidified my decision to become a teacher, because he's talking about the fact that young people cannot maximize their potential if their thinking is not controlled by them. Right? If they are not in control of their own thinking. So that passage said to me, I got to be a thinker. I got to be deep with my thinking. I got to be analytical with my thinking. I got to be a thinker. So shout out, kudos to Dr. Carter G. Woodson on this fourth day, the first Saturday of Black History Month. With that said, I didn't bring any books. I'm not going to flash them on the screen, but the Assistant Principal 50, the Aspiring Principal 50, if you don't have your copy yet, please get it. It supplements everything we do on this platform. Again, you can go to Amazon, the Assistant Principal 50 and the Aspiring Principal 50. Then while you're there, you may as well get the Principal 50. And is my school a better school because I lead it? Hit that share button, hit that retweet button. I got two dynamite guests, mother and daughter. Be the first time I've ever experienced anything like that. But they are here, and I'm going to bring them on up here so that they can be a part of the academy with me. Good morning to Dr. Potter and Brya Potter. Good to see you. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm on fire.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning. Principal
Yes, good
Tay,
morning.
thank you so much for having us on.
It is an honor to be here.
I appreciate you being here. We had met formally at the my school leadership conference in Charlotte, and as soon as I realized, I heard that both of you participate, and I realized mother and daughter. I said, "Man, I got to get you on this platform. I need you on here," and here we are in the building. I want the folks to know who you are. So let me read these bios. It won't take me too long, even though it's two, but I want to make sure you all know who's in the building. First, Dr. Tasha Potter. Dr. Tasha Potter holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from SUNY, State University in New York, Brockport. Her master's degree in liberal studies from SUNY, Brockport, a certificate of advanced study in educational administration from SUNY, Brockport, and a doctorate in executive leadership at St. John Fisher College. Dr. Potter began her educational career during the 92-93 school year. She served in Monroe County Public Schools in New York as a teacher assistant. Watch this, y'all. Teacher assistant, teacher, assistant principal, principal, director, and currently is the assistant superintendent for equity and access. So I said, watch this, because she went through all the levels, so you know what's coming next.
Yes.
Dr. Tasha Potter is the founder and CEO of BTP Accountability Partners, LLC. As a diversity, equity, and inclusion leader, Dr. Potter specializes in developing, facilitating, and implementing innovative solutions for creating equitable outcomes both locally and nationally. Yes. And then Brya Potter, the daughter, has made it her life's work to encourage, help, and teach others. She has a bachelor's of arts degree in sociology with a minor in psychology from St. John Fisher University and a master's of science degree in school counseling from Robert Wesleyan College. Turning my volume down. She has completed a certificate of advanced study in educational leadership. I always wondered how to pronounce this word. Pronounce it for me, Brya.
Canisius College.
I see it all the time, but I've never known how to pronounce
it. It's okay.
Further, she is pursuing a doctorate in educational leadership at, now you know I don't know how to say that.
DeUville University. Yeah.
Brya is a New York State certified school counselor and administrator, speaker, writer, business and brand strategist, and business owner. In addition, she is the CEO of R+R, Restoring Relationships, a member of Forbes, The Culture, a member of Black Christian Influences, BCI, COO of BTP Accountability Partners, founder of Black Educators Connect, BEC, and licensed minister. Most importantly, Brya strongly believes in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, be the change that you wish to see in the world. Brya's goal is to contribute to the society by encouraging, empowering, and supporting individuals in both her professional and personal world. Determined to achieve the impossible, Brya strives to help and support others to succeed while impacting individuals one day at a time so all can be the change that we wish to see in the world. Dynamite stuff, y'all. Hit that share button, man. Hit that retweet button. I see you. Hit that repost. Hit them all them buttons. Tag somebody. Let them know we are here. Let's get it rocking. I'm gonna start with Dr. Potter. Dr. Potter, I just talked a little bit about Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who's a personal hero of mine. He
Mhm.
died long before I could have met him. But I just love me some Dr. Carter G. Woodson. I love his writings. I love everything he did and stood for. My question to you is, what is the significance of Black history to your life, both personally and professionally?
So I think I can't separate the two. My personal connection to Black history is also my professional connection to Black history. And for me, it's about sharing our story. I feel like our story has not been amplified. We need to make sure that we are amplifying. I think about the ways in which our students on a daily basis are learning. And we realize that our history has not been told. And so for me, Black history is love, it's resistance, it's celebration, it's joy, it's sharing perspectives and accomplishments. The research tells us that more than 8 out of every 10 books that students read from preschool to 8th grade are written by white authors.
Mm.
And so for me, it's not just the month of February, it's every single day, it's all year long. And it's really an opportunity for us to bring our story forward. But again, I'm hoping that we're not just using this month to tell our story. It's one that should be told daily and again, all year long. But I think it's an opportunity, again, for us to be thinking about raising expectations, talking about Black figures, both locally and nationally, historically. It's introducing our students to the experiences that help to shape us as a people. So it's deep and wide, right? I could keep going on and on and on, but it definitely holds a symbolic meaning for me, both personally and professionally.
I love it. I'm the same way, and it's interesting. There are days that sometime in my mind with certain, just different audiences, all different, and sometimes I'm thinking, I'm going to be generic today. I'm just going to do that lecture. I'm going to be somewhat generic in what I do, and then next thing I know, I'm back to me, because when you talk about everything you said in terms of that history, it's who I am. It's just my essence. So I can't be generic even if I tried to be. Let me
That's
go
right.
to Brya with the
Yeah.
same thing, the significance of Black history to your personal and professional life.
Yes. So very similar to my mother. Black history is me, right? So I can't separate the two regarding both professionally and personally. And for me, it's really creating an environment for us in schools, for our students' story to be told, right? So not hiding all the good and the bad that comes with Black history, and that it shouldn't just be 1 month. For me, that's really important. That how can we throughout the school year really emphasize the importance of all that is a part of Black history and the excellence with it, helping our students to identify themselves and seeing themselves as able to have a future, and tying that in, and really helping to teach and cultivate conversations that are not easy, but are important and necessary, and not hiding that within our schools. And as a, personally, not hiding that as well, because it is who I am. So it's really important for me, considering Black History Month, to capture the significance of it and acknowledging the beauty and symbolism of the time, during civil rights movement, and then today, right? And seeing how far we have gotten, but how much farther we still need to go. And
Mhm.
being honest with our students and ourselves about that. And there is much work to be done, but getting the work done by having these opportunities for our students to see themselves in their history. And as my mom was sharing, talking about the importance of having literature and text about Black authors,
That's right.
sharing their Black experiences and perspectives and accomplishments for our students to see themselves in that. And so for me, it's creating that culture responsive environment for teaching that is rich for our students to see themselves, each and every day, and not just for 1 month. So
Well,
that's my work as a leader, and the importance that I find professionally, but also just for me personally as a Black woman that I live in each and every day.
Wow,
absolutely.
I love it. I was just telling my audience here, being here in St. Louis. One of the aspects of history that stands out for me is the Supreme Court decision of 1857, Dred Scott. And there's a statue right down the street from where I was staying, of Dred Scott and his wife. And I visit that statue and take a picture of it every time I'm in St. Louis. And it's like someone could say like, why take the same picture for decades, literally,
Mhm.
since I've been speaking here, but I just do because it's just the history. So everything you said, just the two of you just resonated with me. Dr. Potter, since meeting the two of you formally in person in Charlotte, um, it was evident to me in real time that the two of you are very close. And then I've kind of seen it from a distance in social media and so forth, that it's there. So my question to you, given the relationship and given the similarity of career path, you're both educational leaders. What is it like to have a daughter that where you've created this blueprint, so to speak, for her, not necessarily to follow to a T, but just to be able to see your daughter doing that which you do and had done?
Absolutely. So she's my legacy, right? And I think about everything that I've been able to do, I've done for her and her siblings to be able to have someone to have as that representation. As Brya just unpacked for you, our students don't have that representation, and most Black women in education, but particularly in leadership, don't have that representation. And so, she started out her career. I heard you in the intro talk about going and seeing counselors, and Brya can certainly connect to this, but that's how she started out. She started out as a school counselor. And, just to know that her path, her journey has led her to be a leader. And I know it's because of the conversations that I've had at the dinner table, because of the experiences that I've had. She's come to my school, when I was a building assistant principal and she's just watched me over time. And to now see her as a young woman, leading and living for equity, for educational experiences that consider how students are learning, how students show up to school on a daily basis, it really just warms my heart and makes me so proud. One of the things I can tell you is Brya's got it. There are a lot of people that can come to a situation and they can come to leadership, and when they've got it. Brya is an example of someone that really cares. She cares about education. She cares about her students, her faculty, and her families. And as her mother, to watch all of that unfold, it just brings me joy on a daily basis. So when you think about the connection between Black History Month and representation mattering and our students needing to see themselves show up in their learning experience, I think that also is a message for Brya, and needing to see that leadership lives in women of color, Black women, and then to watch her lead this life it's amazing to see. It's beautiful.
Wow, that's some powerful stuff. I don't know if the two of you do this or if it's in the works, but just doing assemblies together,
Mhm.
where they get to see you, or parent workshops
Mhm.
where now the parents get to see the two of you together on the same platform. I think that would be extremely powerful,
Yeah.
a powerful experience. Brya, what is it like, therefore, to have a mom that has essentially created a blueprint for you? And again, not to assume you'll take the same career path, but I'm saying more so in the sense of leadership as a
Yes.
Black woman.
There's so much there because, as a child growing up in a household, my father and mother are both educators, right? And just looking up to them and their love for their school communities, students, and their staff, and then wanting to be representation of that, right? And so the numbers show that over 70% of educators are white women. And when it comes to leadership, the percentage of females in general is much slimmer, right? And then just representing of Black and brown leaders, there are not much of us out there. And it's sad. And so I wanted to follow my parents' footsteps and be that representation, not just for my Black and brown students, but for my white students as well, to see the
Mhm.
importance of having a Black educational leader who is going to support them and show them that they can have a future and be successful. And so every single day I step into my building, I'm a representation of that and of my parents, right? And really helping our students to just see their future. And so me being in the building, the representation of a Black woman who comes into that building to give voice to our students and help them to grow in their identities and see their ability. That is so key and near dear to my heart. And so just having my mother to go to and look up to, and just seeing the things that she has impacted throughout her career and different, times of her career, I want to be that. I want to continue to be able to be supportive of my students and my staff and making a difference, making real change, right? And so it's an honor each and every day to have her as my mother and be able to go to her for advice and wisdom as I take on this leadership role as an assistant principal and for my future. And so I'm just blessed, honestly, that I have had her as a blueprint. And there's much more work to be done, but she has left a really good, important aspect of her career for me to see and to shadow.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. As you were speaking, it made me think of the mirror that I typically use, that I was
Mm.
ready to hold up for the audience, and I just realized my mirror is downstairs on the podium. I might have a spare one in the bag. I'm gonna check in a minute because I got a couple of them. But everything that you just said, it really matters.
Mm.
Both of you, and it just keeps making me think about what it is that you could do in those workshops that your typical presenter may not be able to do because they don't
Mm.
have either the mother or the sibling, I mean the child, to be there with them in order to do the presentation. So I don't know if that's something you all are thinking about or actually do, but what an empowering experience it would be for
Yeah.
folks sitting in that audience.
Yes.
Let's get into it.
Before you
Yeah,
do,
yeah, yeah,
it reminds me of sitting in your conference this past summer, and
Mhm.
you talked about the mirror. And Brya and I have actually used that analogy a lot. And thinking about how do I see myself as a leader, and Brya asks herself, how does she
Mhm.
see herself as a leader?
There we go.
Because leadership is about acknowledging the needs that are present, right? So why do my students and staff need me? But for us as a mother-daughter duo, how can I see myself showing up for Brya? How does she need me, right? As a young, and I always say baby administrator, right? And she's brand new to this work, but how is it that I can help to foster her experiences in such a positive way so she knows how important her role is and how she touches her school community? I think that's that mirror. And so I'm so glad that you brought that up, because we have talked a lot about the mirror, and it really has resonated with both of us since we left you this past summer.
wow, wow. I'm honored by that.
Yes.
And since you brought it up, hey folks, we'll be back July 11 and 12, I think it is. We'll be in Charlotte, but we'll talk more about that later.
It was
Um,
powerful. You need to go.
That's right.
appreciate you.
You
Appreciate
need to
you.
go. You're going to miss out if you don't.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Dr.
Yes.
Potter, as an educator,
Yeah.
who is Dr. Tasha Potter?
Oh, all right. Well, you know what? I think in this current role, I wear a few different hats, particularly because I am helping to foster change at the district level. But when I think about who I am at the core, my fabric is really about serving, acknowledging, celebrating, representing all students, making sure that all of our students have voice, choice, and agency. For me, as a leader, it involves the partnership that we have with families. It's folding our families in and helping our families realize that their place in partnership with us is integral to anything that we're going to be able to do for their students. I know, particularly, and history tells us that not always have Black and Brown families have had positive experiences with school. And when they don't have positive experiences with school, they're not able to see the promise and the potential that's awaiting their child. So it's our responsibility. So I see my role as one that continues to reach out, is one that continues to welcome families, but more importantly, creating the conditions in our schools so that our students feel that they belong, so that their learning on a daily basis feels like something that is connected to their identities. And for me, it's really leadership. I always think about that word leadership. It's an action, right?
Yeah.
It's about us taking our place in this role to make sure that the system, our students, our faculty, and our families feel that we are doing the right work. But it can't be done in isolation. It has to be done in partnership. So, in my current role as an assistant superintendent, I think about everything that we've done that's been tied to educational equity. I think about all of the places that it means building an infrastructure so that equity exists, so it shows up in our systems, our structures, and all of our processes. It's about sharing regularly the public commitment with our community around what we stand for as a district and how we value educational equity. I keep thinking too, because Brya and I, we've had a number of conversations about your book, the one that you had shared with us, and it's engaging folks in those difficult conversations. It's those courageous conversations about the why that we show up and do what we do on a daily basis. So I think that's kind of where I'm situated. And I know I said a lot, but for me, the role is so big because our students matter. And if I don't show up and take action, then really being complacent and falling back and passive means that we're not going to be able to accomplish all that we know that we need to in support of our students. So that's kind of who I am as a leader. And I could, again, go on and on and on. But I think the short of it all is knowing that equity is at the center of everything that we're doing. And at the center of equity is our students. But that's what it means to me.
That last part you just said, equity is at the center. Hey, folks out there, got that mirror now. Look at yourselves. Is equity at your center? And then, as you said, and at the center of equity is the students,
Yes.
right? So I want everybody out there, just think about that. Is equity. And there's a lot of different ways to interpret it. As I use my own definition, meeting young people where they are, as they are. Is equity at your center? And then our students at the center of equity, right? And Dr. Potter, I would be remiss. You earned your doctorate recently.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So congratulations publicly to you. I
Yeah.
just remembered that because I'm all over both of y'all social media. So, that's one of the ways I prepare. So congratulations on that doctorate, man. That's a big deal. You got it from me because I don't think I'm gonna have one. Right. So,
it's never too late. It's never too late.
I know if I ever slow down and kind of stay home or local, maybe I'll go online and get it done. You never know.
Yes. Well, my dissertation, my work was all about students and helping us create environments that are culturally responsive. So building our pedagogical toolkits, making sure that we are elevating our traditionally marginalized and oppressed voices, making sure that we have the curriculum where students can co-design that curriculum with us. And again, that brings in that voice and that agency and that choice. But the dissertation for me, again, when I think about everything that I've done in my life, it's all been very personal. I know that for a lot of professional reasons, they've kind of intersected, but in researching and learning and growing through my dissertation, it just reminded me again how much students matter to me, and that they are, and they continuously live at the core.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. I got a follow up for you. Considering that all of us, there's so many different directions that we could go professionally, but you chose education. Why education? And after all these years, what continues to fuel your passion for this work?
So education for me, and Brya knows this story well, my grandmother was a teacher. And the same ways in which when I was a classroom teacher, I was dragging my kids into my classroom to help me set up at the start of the year, my grandmother did the same thing to me. And, it was the love for education and excitement that I had when I either visited her in her classroom or was a part of creating what was that warm and welcoming environment where she, invited and introduced students at the beginning of the school year. And I just watched her give so much to education. And I loved her love for education. And that's really kind of what inspired me. And I know that when I started as a teaching assistant, the 92-93 school year, I actually worked in the building that my grandmother was a teacher. So my role as a teaching assistant, we came together, and it was a beautiful experience for me to be in that building with her on a daily basis. And she always said, "Don't stop here." Right. So being a teaching assistant, that was my introduction to education. That was my entry point, but it wasn't my final point.
Yeah.
And, here actually June makes 29 years for me in education. And after all of these years, I realize I'm still not done. What continues to fuel me is knowing that the work still needs to be done. Knowing that students are coming to school on a daily basis and they have a need for us to show up for them. Probably differently now more than ever before. And because of that, I know that my time and my work in public education isn't done. And I'll continue, just serving and supporting. And again, just thinking about those spaces that we're creating for students and acknowledging that cultural pluralism is important. We can't continue to tell one story. We need to tell all of the story. And that also is a nice tie back to the reason why Black history matters for us, because it's part of the story. We've had a very Eurocentric story that's always been told, and now we need to make sure that we're folding in. And that's really my why for continuing this work.
I love it. I love it. So when we talk about continuing this work, here you are, assistant superintendent for equity and access.
Yes.
I want you to, I got this question, and I want you to, I don't want you to receive it on the surface. Take it a little bit deeper.
Yes.
When I put this together, did you choose equity and access, or did equity and access choose you?
I think I chose equity and access. And I think it's because of who I am. And I think it goes back to, being a child, and my grandparents raised me watching them experience inequities. I think also my pathway in my journey in education, I have experienced inequities. My children have. And so when this role was being created, because this job was created, and I transitioned into this role as a result of a need in this district. And a lot of people think that, when you hear equity and access, it really is equity and access for all students. It's equity and access that's specific to race and ethnicity. But a lot of times, even when you say race and you think about what race means, a number of people don't see white as a race. So when we say equity and access, and we're saying all students and all families, it becomes race, ethnicity, it becomes sexual orientation, gender identity, it becomes ability and disability, it becomes socioeconomic status and background. So all of that is having equity and access.
Yeah.
And this role in particular, it helps to facilitate everything connected to educational equity in our district, but it also oversees our special education department, our pupil personnel services. And if you think about ability and disability, we're also talking about enrichment, right? Like there are so many places that equity and access either live or don't. And so it's the work of the department to help to foster an environment in our district that allows all students, and again, promoting equity and access and diversity and inclusion for all students in their unique abilities within the work. So to go back to the question, I think I chose equity and access because equity and access lives in me.
Yeah, I love that. So equity and access lives in me.
Yes.
That compels me to put the mirror back up there. That's a big mirror. And I'm asking somebody out there, does equity, does access live in you? Said differently or asked differently, does equity and access live in your leadership? Right? Is it embedded in your leadership? I'm talking to somebody that tuned in, that saw it, not robbery, to tune in this morning. Does equity and access live within your leadership? What is the game film saying about who you are as it relates to equity and access? Great stuff. Brya, I got like a 5-parter for you.
All right.
Matter of fact, it's more than that. I guess I got overly ambitious.
Love it.
It's a lot here.
Okay.
Let's go. At first, the question I ask all my guests as an educator: who is Brya Potter?
Who was Brya Potter? Ah, that's such a great question. I think about me and the work that I do. And so for me, I always go back to the quote by Mahatma Gandhi, and it says, "Be the change that you wish to see in the world." So, how can I, as Brya Potter, educational leader, walk into my building each and every day and be that change that I hope for my students, for our society, for our communities? And so for me, it is creating equal voice for each and every student that walks in my building. It is helping the marginalized voices to have a voice. It is being an advocate for students who struggle to speak up. It is, for me, I'm tying it back to your conference. You talked about asking yourself and each youngster, what is it about me at the end of the day that shows that I'm fighting for my students? And so when I walk into that building, whatever the needs of my students, my staff, my families that benefit the good of my students is what I will fight for. And that is sometimes being on an island by yourself, having to speak up for those voices that don't often get to have a voice. And I just saw a comment here, creating equal voice, which to me is tied to creating equal opportunities for all students to find success. And so how can I support my staff and our families to create environments for our students to have equal opportunity? And so I just think of myself as who I am as a person, creating spaces that are safe, that are welcoming, affirming, filled with love. So that is a part of my identity, is walking in those aspects, because that helps me to be the leader that I am. It is having those conversations one-on-one with our students that helps them to have value in their cultural identities and helping them to develop what that looks like. And it's helping them to see what their futures could be. It is having those one-on-one conversations with staff and helping to build them up and their toolkits to create culturally affirming environments in their classrooms. It is supporting our families, having them have a shoulder to cry on. The multiple conversations I can just think back to where my families cry out for help and say, how can you help support me to find solutions for my child to be successful? And so that is my work. That is the essence of who I am, is creating those opportunities and putting up that fight and going to battle for my students each and every day. So when you talk about who am I as a person, but then also tying that into that being a part of my essence as an educator, it is creating those spaces for everyone to have a voice and to find equal opportunity, to find success, and doing that through the lens of love and grace. I always go back to helping my students to see there is no perfect human. We are not perfect, but how can we still push ourselves, right, to find success? How can we still overcome the hurdles and the barriers that we face? And so that is the work that I do. That is who I am as a person, not just professionally, but personally, is creating those opportunities in those environments.
Wow. You said some powerful things within that. And I wrote a couple of things, three things.
Okay.
One of the things you said was the willingness of being on an island by yourself. when those situations arise. And you know, I think about that, Brya. I think about it me as a teacher, because there were times when I was fighting that battle alone. You know, there
Mhm.
were people that weren't happy with some of the things I did. I don't mean my boss, but I mean colleagues. I think about it
Yes.
as a principal. Sometimes I had to step out, you know, and fight that fight for them, which ties into what you said, putting up that fight, you know, you know, and as I'm speaking to you one on one on this, I'm also speaking to the broader audience out there,
Mhm.
asking you all, are you willing to fight that fight? I mean, it's easier when we got people to fight it with us, but
Mhm.
sometimes, you know, sometimes you got to take a stance, and you just gotta you got to do what you got to do. You know, that's why, you know, you talk about Black History Month. That's why we love so many of these folks, so many of the ancestors, because they
Yes.
were willing to fight that fight singularly if they had to. I mean, we
Mhm.
know Harriet Tubman fought that fight singularly. She could have, the first trip up north, yo, I'm free. I'm
Mhm.
done. But she kept going back, right? So,
Mhm.
but then you also said going to battle every day. And see that conjures up certain thoughts when you think about it. Some of us, and this is not me accusing anybody on here, but just generically in the world, some of us go to work every day. Some of us go to our profession every day. Some of us go to continue with our career every day. But then, as you just said, some of us go to battle. See, that's a different leader. Somebody out there watching. I'm just quoting Brian. Sometimes you got to roll up your sleeves and be ready to go to battle.
Mhm.
Sometimes these speaking engagements, man, I'm going to battle because I know I'm not welcome, but somebody needs to hear the message, right? So I love it. Let's keep going here.
Yes.
As I said to your mom, and for those of you that may have tuned in late, we got mother and daughter as guests. We got Dr. Tasha Potter and assistant principal Brya Potter in the building. This is mother and daughter. So hit that share button, hit that retweet button. Let them know we're in week 145 and we getting down. I'm in St. Louis, but you know, so what? I'm not home. Ain't nothing gonna stop this broadcast. Nothing,
Love
right?
it.
So, like I asked your mom, why education? You could have done a lot of things. You're brilliant.
Thank you, Dr. Principal K. I'm thinking about education and looking at my parents being educators. To me, it is the importance impact of representation. So as I'm starting to think about my dissertation for my doctorate, for
Mm,
me, it's finding the importance of representation. And there's so much research that shows the power of having Black and Brown educators in front of our students, not just our Black and Brown students, all students, white students included, and the impact that we as Black and Brown educators can have on not just the social development of our students, but the academic development of our students. And so for me, when you say why education, it's because I wanted to be representative in our school communities for all of our students to see what they could be, especially my Black and Brown students, letting them know that you can push through the barriers and see yourself as successful and having a future. And so it is going to bat for my students to have a voice each and every day, and not just in our school communities, but through their learning, through the literature, through the curriculum. And so, how can I, as a leader, create these environments for our students to have their cultural identities affirmed? And so, that is when I think back to why education, that is my why. I need to be in the buildings with our students. I need to create these environments and opportunities for all of our students to have success, to have a future, and letting them know, because oftentimes in society, they're being told they will not have a future. Well, I am going to be the one to say you can, and here is
mm.
how, and holding their hand through that, and supporting my staff as well to be holding the hands of our students who walk in each and every day to affirm their futures. So that is
Woo.
my why.
That's powerful. Your why. I love it. I love it. You know, Brian, in March of 2022, you became an assistant principal, right?
Yes.
I checked that out on social media. March of
Yes.
2022.
My LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's right. So
Yes.
so it hasn't been quite a year yet, And here you are. So I got some questions about that. But before I get to them, why you want to lead a school?
So it goes back to my why. I want to be able to lead a school so that I can be sure to create voice for all of our students. I want to be a leader to support my staff and seeing themselves as leaders. I believe that our staff, our teachers, our mental health team, they are leading the work each and every day. And I am there to guide it, support it, and help them to have the training that they need to find that success for the good of our kids. And so I want to be able to continue to grow in my leadership and my ability to create, once again, opportunity and access for our students. And that comes with helping to be, a leader for staff, but also creating opportunities for our students and their families. And so I know I have that vision in my heart for our marginalized students to have a voice. And so with my leadership and my vision in my heart, coming into a building and creating that a part of our culture, having a culture and climate that every student walks in and feels safe and affirmed. And being able to be that representation as a Black woman for the good of all of our students, but especially our Black and brown students, to see themselves through me.
Wow.
And that is powerful. And I don't take that lightly. Like, it is not only an honor, but it is a privilege to be in the role that I have, because there is so many different aspects that I get to touch and impact. I'm not just impacting our kids, but I'm impacting the teachers who are in front of our kids each and every day. I'm helping to support and impact the families that have our students at home, right? And so this is why I want to continue to be a leader in a building, to be able to touch every aspect. It's not just our staff, our families, there's our students. We all come together. We have to work in a community to find success for all of our kids. It takes a village. And I want to continue to help to lead that village and empower everyone who's a part of that village, our staff, our students, and our families.
Wow.
Or we won't find success. Our students won't find success if we don't work as a village and a team. And so I want to continue to help to foster that in our schools.
Wow. Brya, it's listening to you, it made me think about when I run into these Black men, new leaders, I should say,
Yeah.
across the country. Because I met one this just about an hour ago, Seneca Allen. I just posted about him. When these young men walk up on me, Black and brown men in particular, not to take anything away from others who are not Black and brown, but I want to just focus on them for a second. And they come at me and say, Kafele, man, you don't understand. You don't understand what you've done for my life. That stuff matters to me because I know how serious I take the work, and I hear that coming through you, right? They walk up, they see me somewhere, they chasing me down somewhere. Kafele, man, I've been with you. Like, dude, this morning, he said, I've been with you for 144 weeks. Now, he might be down there like on the steep tip listening while he's watching that. He said, yeah, I purposely didn't even tell the audience that I was getting ready to go. I said I got to do my live stream, but I didn't tell them what it was.
Could they be hopping on here?
Yeah. I do that when I go back down. But that's like one of the best feelings maybe in the world when someone like says, you don't know what you have done for my life. And I know how hard I go. I had Pedro Noguero, that I'm sure the two of you know of. He wrote on my thread this week. He said, Kafele, you got to slow down. He said, you and I the same age. You got to slow down. He said, do Zoom. And I wrote him back. I said, man, I did a Zoom recently and had to keep turning the camera off to yawn. I said, I can't do no. I don't call this Zoom.
That's right.
This is something very different. But Zoom, I said, I got to be with the people. So although it takes me away from home and my wife and all that, I got to be with the people, man. I got to be right there. I can't do this in terms of those kinds of presentations. But let's go back to you. So you come in March 2022. So meaning you came in when the school year was three quarters over. You know,
Yes.
you just had that final stretch. So my question to you, because the reason I even generated this question, because there could be someone out there who either had the same experience or is in it right now.
Mhm.
Right. So I want to ask you, what were the unique challenges of coming into a school as an AP in March as opposed to the first day of a new school year?
That's a really good question. So I will say, to give some context, I had been in the building as a school counselor for 3 years. And so last year, there was a lot of transition with leadership. And so I will say that we all came in as a new team, new building principal, and there's two assistant principals, me and another. And so I feel like that was probably the greatest challenge is we're coming in all new together and having to formulate vision together in the midst of the middle of the school year. So, being able to gather what is our mission, our values, and our goals cohesively, and how are we going to carry that out? And knowing that it's not going to be a race. We have to take our time to have vision and goals, but how can we tackle each and every day just a bit of that vision, mission, and goals? And so it was a blessing to be able to come in. Not only was it a blessing to come in as a new team because we could have those shared values and goals to decide together, but also the challenge of that, right? And having our footprint in that building, right? Getting to share with staff, gaining that trust from our staff members, our families, continue to build those relationships with each other so that we could see and carry out the goals in our heart for that building. And so I feel like that was probably the greatest challenge, but also blessing at the same time as coming in as new together.
So,
And it wasn't easy, but it was good to have a team that had shared values and goals and being able to work together, right? I talk about that partnership, that village that it takes to run a building. And so we anchored ourselves in that and did the best that we could in the middle of March, supporting the goals and needs of our kids and putting them first.
wow, wow, you sound like somebody that was seasoned going on there into that position. And Dr. Potter, forgive me for this long succession of questions to Brya. I had gotten to a point in putting this together where I just wanted to keep this particular focus. So bear with me a second.
It's okay, because remember when we started, I told you she's got it. So now everybody sees what I mean when I said she's got it. Right?
Yeah, definitely. So now that you've been assistant principal, you got your feet wet and you've been in this year since the start of the year.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges? And I ask you this question again because I'm always thinking of my audience when I ask my guest questions. What are some of the challenges that you faced that you may not have anticipated facing?
That's another great question, because with this work comes challenges, but it's good work.
Yeah.
Right. And it continues to push me to move forward and know that I'm needed. So I feel like, one of the challenges that I feel like we as educational leaders face is the amount of impact from the community and society that comes into our building. So each and every day, we have students who have so many different complexities of things they face at home, and us having to grow to understand the needs of our students. And so I just think back to how many students come in with multiple ACEs of trauma and things that can't be fixed within a school year, right? And how can we still be agents of change and partner with, our families and community supports to provide for the needs of those students that come in with so much different challenges. I think of mental health, right? Like me coming in as a school counselor, I continue to still see the amount of anxiety and depression that our students face. And how can we help those students to still be learners? How can we help those students to still find academic success? How can we help those students to still feel safe and welcomed in our spaces with the things that they bring to the table that are their own challenges? And so for us, it's once again creating that culture and environment. We are allowing our students to have voice, to feel safe, to share the challenges they face, so that then we can be anchors and partners with their families and reaching out with community resources to support those students, whether it be connecting them with family functional therapy, whether it be connecting our students with certain resources for social economic status concerns, right? And so that is, I think, one of the greatest challenges that our kids, so right now, and I'm working in a middle school, come in with so much more, some things that I have never faced. And so still helping our teachers to support those students and creating safe environments for them to still feel welcomed. And I even go back to the other challenge of attendance after the pandemic we just faced with COVID.
Yeah.
And attendance still being a concern, how many kids are struggling to come to school because of the anxiety they might have formed during COVID, and helping those students to still be learners. And for me, I think going to battle for those students and not giving up on them, because they're still our kids, right? So how can we once again be a village and partner with those families and students as not only educational leaders, but for our teachers, our mental health staff? What can we do to still help to anchor those students into our building and create learning? So I think those are just some of the challenges that I see each and every day that are difficult, because sometimes it's going to take more than just a school year to support and provide supports for those students and see change. You may not see change immediately. And I know a lot of staff may feel easily defeated. I have at times felt defeated because I like to fix things. I like to have solutions, but sometimes it takes working slowly for those kids and really not giving up on them and still seeing them as our students and saying, okay, there are many different areas and aspects that they're facing and traumas they're coming into the building with, but we can still provide support for those kids and not giving up on them. So that's a challenge that I feel like I face each and every day, but fighting that good fight, not giving up, and providing the tools and supports that our staff need to reach those kids.
You know, it's funny how at the very end you said fighting that good fight, and the thing I was hearing, everything you said, I was hearing fight, I was hearing advocacy, right? And that's what you sound like to me. One that's out, that's on the front lines with your team, fighting on behalf of these young people, advocating on behalf of these young people. So my question then would be, what is it about your current role as assistant principal that is preparing you for that one day principalship?
Yes. When I think of that, right, I feel like each and every day I am learning and growing for that next step, right? And so the challenges that we face and just being able to come together, utilizing our school community as a village. And so working through some of those problems as a team. And for me, growing and learning in certain scenarios of what to do. And I feel like, once you become building principal, your leadership growth does not stop. I feel like we're constant, as educators, constant learners. And that's how it should be. You're learning on a daily basis and growing in a daily basis, and your leadership and your ability to support a building, which is more than just a building. It involves our staff, our kids, and our families, and not losing sight that we are a team and not being divisive in that, creating an understanding that we are a family in this together. And if one fails, we all fail. So we got to pull ourselves at the bootstraps and continue to support each other and not give up on supporting the needs of our students. And so I feel like, the things that I continue to see and face as an assistant principal now is building me up to take on that next role as a building principal. And I don't lose sight of that. And so I use every opportunity, even the ones that are challenging and may feel defeating, as an opportunity to learn, to grow my arsenal and toolkit to provide the support that I need for my kids to find success. And at the end of the day, the question is, for me, are we doing that? Are we creating opportunities for our students? Are we allowing them to find success? And how are we doing that? Because everything that we do is tied into that. We are here for the kids. So that is what I preach to my teachers, my families. We are here for our students. So let's never lose sight of that. We can't lose sight of that, because that is the work.
That is the
and
work.
So I feel like it's a daily learning for me.
Wow. There's some powerful stuff here you dropping, and that's what the people are saying in the comments. I see all five of the platforms. Brya, we instructional leadership coaching, it's my strong contention that that's at the heart of the work we do.
Yes.
But as an AP and even a principal, sometimes we can't get to that the way we would want to, right?
Mhm.
So my question before I go back to Dr. Potter, my question is, what are the challenges? You know, I'm talking to this young assistant principal this morning. What are the challenges to being the instructional leader, the instructional coach that you want to be, or have you already figured it out?
Mm. I still believe I'm finding that balance, and I'll be honest. I think a great challenge for assistant principals is the balance of providing support interventions for behavior, right? On
Mhm.
top of providing the instructional needs for our staff. So not only pushing into our staff meetings, our PLCs, and helping to gear and support the curriculum instruction to be culturally relevant, right? And to continue to sharpen the arsenals for our teachers to provide good teaching for our kids. But on top of that, providing for the behavior aspect that I have to face, right? And so it's a balance that I'm still finding, because your day can go by so fast dealing with the behaviors, working with families, working with your mental health team to provide for students' needs when it comes to behavioral concerns that pop up. So dealing with that discipline. And I think it's important for us as leaders as a whole to have that restorative approach to discipline. How can we restore the damage that's been done? How can we build skills for our students to have and carry with them to be continuous learners and growing to be able to be citizens in our community? So it's not just about discipline. There's so much more about the learning within that. And having that restorative approach to discipline, I find, is so important. And that tying into the instructional piece for our teachers having their toolkits filled with providing for the needs of students when it comes to discipline and behavior, and not having that take away from the learning. So it's just this constant battle that I feel like I am still balancing and learning to grow in, is being able to have that understanding of how can I continue to support the needs of my teachers instructionally, but also providing the support and needs for our students when it comes to discipline and behavior.
Mhm.
So I feel like I'm still in that balance, Principal K.
Excuse my language, Brya, but damn. You, you,
Yes.
you,
It's a challenge.
you sharp to be so young in this business.
Ah.
Yeah, man. My Lord. My Lord. Yeah, excuse my language.
It's okay. But I'm learning from the best, right? So I'm looking at you both right now, Principal K and my mother, learning from those who have had so much experience in this work and taking that with me each and every day. So I just want to just highlight and thank you for all the work that you're doing in prepping us as educational leaders, and for us newbies out there to not give up and fight the good fight. So thank you.
I appreciate you. Let me go to Dr. Potter.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that long. I've never done that before.
It was good though.
Listen,
Yeah,
if there's an opportunity to amplify Brya's voice, I'm all about it.
yeah.
That is the voice to be heard. So I am all about, listen, I've had my time. And that's why I told you this is my legacy. So I'm ready to pass that torch. I have passed that torch, and she just takes it from here.
And I think Melissa said it best, an old soul.
Yes.
She's been like that since she was a baby.
Wow.
She's always brought this beauty and wisdom and understanding. And really, she's a learner. So everything that you're experiencing, yes, she has representation in me, but she also is a learner, and she wants to know. She is reading, she is understanding, she's having conversations because it all matters to her. And so what you're witnessing right now is someone that truly cares about students and truly cares about people and education. So I'm just happy to sit here and watch it. So if you need to keep talking to Brya, I'm good. Because like I said, she is really where it's at.
Yeah, no, I got you. I got some questions for you. Now, Dr. Potter, within your capacity, do you supervise principals at all?
So in collaboration with the superintendent, there is a part of my work that does. I have a director and that for special education that does report to me. So there is oversight. Actually, the role that I have also still gets in the classroom. So having that observation evaluation process with building principles for classroom teachers. So I'm still in the classroom. I'm still watching, really good instruction happening. But the supervision isn't directly with principals. Our superintendent does oversee and supervise our principals, but I have a director and special education administrators that I do help to oversee and supervise.
Sounds good. So let me ask you this then. Considering the years you spent as an AP, as a principal, and now seeing the principalship, seeing the assistant principalship through a very different lens as an assistant superintendent. And this is me speaking, this is not you, but someone who will probably become a superintendent one day, right? If off the top of your head, because I didn't give you the questions for you to prepare, but if you could say, what would be maybe your top 3 areas that you would say to a principal, this is what you need to be thinking about. This is where you need to be the best version of yourself. What might those top 3 areas be within leadership?
Yeah, so I liken it to a number of things that Brya has said, and I'll just kind of capture and summarize and maybe some 3 words. I think relationships, right? I think relational, you need to be relational. You need to have that relational capital. You need to know what that means first, right? So it means listening. It means being empathetic. It means having understanding for your faculty, your families, and your students. But relationships are key. They matter. So I would want every new assistant principal or principal to be thinking always first about relationships, because once you have fostered those relationships, and then you know that you can sustain those relationships over time, everything else can fall into place. The other thing, like I said about Brya, she is a consummate professional. She is learning, she's reading, she's asking questions. I would want every new assistant principal and principal to also be thinking about who they are both personally and professionally when it comes to educational equity. So that means immersing themselves in reading. They need to know what it means to have relationships with people that may be different than themselves. I think about the research of Dr. Gloria Ladson Billings, and she talks about the 3 criteria for culturally relevant pedagogical practices. She talks about academic achievement, cultural competence, and social political consciousness. So the second one, that cultural competence, we need to know about cultures different than our own. So how do we do that? That to me is about that educational equity. That's about being culturally responsive. And I would hope anyone stepping into a building as a leader knows what that means. But first, they understand where they show up personally. And then how do they transform that personal placement to the professionalism that they need to demonstrate on a daily basis? So again, relationships, understanding what it means to be a leader, a culturally responsive leader. And then I would just say that ongoing professional learning, like you have to stay in your learning. You can't start the work and think that once you begin that you are disconnected from it, because you need to know what's going on instructionally. You need to know what's going on socially, emotionally. Heard Brya talk about adverse childhood experiences. You think about trauma. But if you don't know how your students are showing up to school, you're not going to be able to meet them and reach them and teach them. So that for me is for everyone that's thinking about this work and all the ways in which I've experienced this work. And I'm trying to help Brya and coach her so that she can be in this work. And really, she doesn't require very much coaching from me anymore. But where she needs to be in this work would be how I would hope any new assistant principal or principal is leading and living for equity, right? And that is a part of their daily experiences. And it's all, again, rooted in relationships for me.
I love it, and I just want to reiterate to the audience out there. You talked about relationships, but I like how you anchored that in relational capital, right? So someone out there watching right now, and by the way, I see you, Lori J. I see you. That's a buddy of mine. So, and I guess the other side, I guess I say his name. I guess Haywood's on here with you. He better be on here. If he's not, you tell him I said get on here, right? So anyway, those are friends of mine. So the relationship. Hey, does relationship play a prominent role within your leadership? Because it matters. You talked about that educational equity, and I mean we can never exhaust that topic. It's just so much there. And then the understanding what it is to be a leader. And you know something, Doc? I've studied so many leaders in other genres out beyond education to learn leadership, right? Because a lot of it is transferable. So I never confine myself to just education leaders. There's certain education leaders that I adore. You know, one that I talk about a lot from out in the East, in New York City. He's deceased now, but Dr. Frank Mickens, who led a school called, well, you in New York, Boys and Girls High School in Brooklyn. You probably know that school.
Yeah.
And Frank Mickens, who was known as Mick, that was my go-to, man. I just admired him. I didn't lead like him, but I admired the work he did, and was flattered when I introduced myself to him one day. And he said to me, I've been following you for years. Right. And I said, you know me? You know, this is going back a while, many years ago, but it was just flattering that someone that I looked up to was someone who was checking me out from afar. And then you talked about just that ongoing professional learning. And that's so key, y'all. We gotta read, we gotta study, right? It's listen to the podcast, watch the live streams, do all that. Go to the conferences, go to the institutes, the academies, etc. But you got to pick up a book too.
That's right.
You got to read. You got to read. If it's not an audio book, because everybody writes me talking about are your books in audio? My publisher doesn't do audio books yet. Maybe that's coming, but right now they don't. But don't be discouraged. Just get the print and read it when you can. We gotta read.
Well, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna dip in there real quick, because this book, you gave us this book last summer. And after I came back, I ordered this book for our whole instructional leadership team, because the questions, again, we're centering this in equity, right? The 50 questions that you ask help us be better educational equity leaders. And so that walk away, like this gift that you gave, you know, Brya and I, we were trying to figure out who was going to read it fastest before we left North Carolina. But I think that the message most assuredly is that if you're not reading, then you are doing a disservice to your community. If you're not learning and growing, then you don't know how to serve students well. And that's really the place that we all have to live, in that professional learning.
And it's interesting you showed that, because it speaks to, once again, we're talking about that fight and that advocacy and just going hard in this work. And as you know, and this is not me boasting, I'm just making the point that I bought, see, as some folks out there may not even understand how this process works, but as an author, you don't have books in your inventory that you can just go to and sell and give away. You have to buy your books when you're published by a publisher, right? They don't like send you 500 books and they're yours. You have to literally buy your books wholesale from the publisher, right? So if you want to sell your own book you wrote, you got to buy it. They sell it at a discount, then you can sell it at retail. So you make whatever, the price is. So I bought those books out of my pocket. I didn't put them into the registration fee. I bought them out of my pocket because I just wanted the people that came to the Institute to have that book in there as a part of their arsenal. And that's just me. That's just the passion, the compassion for the work that I do, that I wasn't going to try to sell those to whatever number of people were there. I just said, hey, take this. This is yours too. So that's, we all are who we are, and we all make decisions as to who we going to be as we do this work. So with those responses you gave, Dr. Potter, here's my question to you. Did those become who you are like later, such as now, or were these just as important when you were practitioner as principal?
quite honestly, I think they were just as important as when I was in the principalship. So I began as an assistant principal in 2007, and I was an assistant principal for 2 years. And I was a building principal from 2009 until 2019. And so in the 12 years that I was a building-based leader, relationships have always been important. Having, those conversations with families, helping families see themselves in our educational structures, because honestly, it's about them first. It's about students first, and everything that we do is centered around them. But those relationships and helping, Brya has said a number of times today, like really helping faculty also understand how we can work in partnership. And that's partnership as a principal with faculty, it's faculty with students, it's faculty with families, but relationships are key. And I think that they've always been key for me. And then when I think about who I am as a learner, I probably am just a researcher. I'm an avid reader. I've always learned and loved to learn like a sponge, absorbing everything. And that hasn't changed very much over time. And I think just the ideas around being culturally responsive. So I can tell you, as a building principal, I was making decisions around how we were supporting students that were very different. But that was because I was analyzing my data. I was noticing that disproportionality was a real thing. And I paid attention to that. And I think for me, as a building principal, and now even thinking about, I think that the terminology that we're using over the past several years may feel new, but really it's not. Culturally responsive, culturally relevant pedagogy, that dates,
Oh,
right, it's old. It's not brand new, but for some people it is brand new to them. But I think that being a culturally responsive leader has probably always been who I've been. So I can say with time, with experience, it's strengthened. My overall practices with time and experiences. I think I further defined that for myself and for people around me to understand that that's exactly who I am. So the messages that I share, the actions, I talk about leadership being an action, the actions that I demonstrate are all connected to those three things. And I think that they probably always have.
I love it. You know, to both of you, it's interesting for me in full transparency and I guess vulnerability. Um, as a teacher, I'm looking up at the principalship, but really don't know it yet. Just theoretically, that's all I had because I never walked in those shoes. But then in it, I'm doing my thing. I hope I did it effectively and well. But then when I left it in 2011 to do this work, now I was looking at it through a different lens. I'm looking at it from experience. And I can say, just being vulnerable, that there are things I know now that I did not know then.
Yeah.
And there's a piece of me, and my wife hears me say this from time to time. There's a piece of me that wants to go back and do the things that I've picked up. My core values have not shifted. My core values are the same core values from my teaching days. They haven't shifted at all. That's who I am. But they're just things I've learned as a leader that have grown. I think they've matured, they've evolved. And there's a piece of me that says, go back at this as this OG principal, this older cat principal. But there's another part of me that says, but I'm used to being an entrepreneur. I haven't had a boss to answer to in many years, so I don't know that I want that part again. Because here's the thing: as a 30-something-year-old principal, as a 40-something-year-old principal, superintendents were typically younger than me. I go back. Chances are I'm gonna have superintendents that don't have the experience that I have, So I don't know that I don't or age. So I don't know that I want that. God will guide me in the right direction, and we'll figure it out, right? But Brya,
Yes.
from reading your bio and just checking you out on social media, you wear a lot of hats. And one of the hats that stands out for me is the hat called brand strategist.
Mm.
You know, when I had the boss educator on here last week, Dr. LaQuanta Nelson, we got into some branding conversation. The brand
Mm-hmm.
conversation is my conversation. You know,
Yes.
before there's a teacher principal and a principal, I mean a teacher Kafele and a principal Kafele,
Mm-hmm.
there's marketing Kafele, right?
Yes.
So that's you know, and maybe, you know, a lot of people compliment me that on me knowing how to market myself as a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's because I got a 4-year degree in marketing, you know, so I put it to good use.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So my question to you with brand strategists, first, before I get to the heart of this, what is a brand strategist? What does that mean?
So for me, a brand strategist is helping people to find a way that they share their voice to the world. So how do you identify to your target audience? And so I, not only being an educator, I love business as well and marketing. And so helping different organizations and companies finding their voice and their specific niche and how do they share that with the world. And, you know, I just going back to your trainings, I see here that you had even mentioned, you know, do you have a voice that students and staff want to hear? And so as a brand strategist, that same concept is clear. Do you have a voice that people want to hear? What you are delivering to the world, is it desired? And why? And so how do you vocalize that? How do you share that? How do you market that? And so just having that importance to understanding who you are to clearly describe and vocalize and share out how you want to make an impact. And why should I care? So as an educator, you know, why should my voice matter? And what can I do to continue to create an environment to where I'm needed?
So I was just writing down what you said, but now I can go right to it. You just said something profound. You said, in giving your explanation, does one have a voice that others want to hear? Man,
Yes.
let me go to my mirror on this one. Hey, folks, I got the mirror up. I got the mirror
Mirror.
up. Hit that share button, hit that retweet button. I'm getting toward the end, but I ain't there yet. So hit that share button, hit that retweet button. Let them know we still here. That's
Yes.
my brother right there that you see on
Oh, I love it.
Christian Roberts, man. What's going on, sir? That's it. That's his stage name. He's a Las Vegas and worldwide entertainer. They do the Temptations thing, you know? So yeah, all over the world, right?
Love it.
So hey, somebody out there, I got the mirror up. Do you have a voice that the staff and students in your building want to hear? Got that mirror up. Is your voice one that they want to hear? Now, let me tell you the answer that's not acceptable. I don't care if they want to hear it or not. They're going to hear it. That ain't acceptable. Because now we're talking compliance. We're not talking about desire. We're not talking about want. We're talking about force. We're talking about compliance. They have to hear you. But I'm not asking that question. I'm asking the question that Brya just gave. Do you have a voice that they want to hear? I'm so glad there's so many people that come onto this platform. Everybody doesn't come every week. But like I don't know, some of you may have heard of Erin Jones. She's one of the speakers from last night's program. I was today, and she's my milking sister. You may have seen her with a big red afro. And, you know, we got to talking, and folks were coming up to me saying that they watched this. And I said to her, man, I'm blessed. Because every city I go into, there are people in the audiences that watch this, right? They come up to me and tell me. So that means that there's a voice that they want to hear. I'm asking you, with your students and staff, is there a voice that they want to hear? Because that matters. So I'm glad you posed it that way, because we need to be thinking about that relative to ourselves. So with that, Brya, what is school branding, and why is it so important for schools to put an emphasis on school branding?
Well, I think that's so important because, you know, we need to be one with our community that we're serving it. So we're not just a building. We are part of our community, which involves our families and other community stakeholders. So when you talk about school branding and why is it important, it's important because we are a village that needs to work together. So how can we brand ourselves to show that we want to be partners with our community, right? So outside of just our building, right? There's much more to a school building than the infrastructure itself. It's what's within. Our students, our families, our staff that we're constantly impacting and supporting. But also, how can we, once again, reach out and be supporting of agents of change for those community stakeholders and our families outside of our community, right? And how do we bring them into our vision and our mission? How can we have shared goals that at the end of the day support the goals of our students finding success? So it's just more than just a school. We are within our community. We are a part of our community. And so being one within the community, I think, is so key. So branding that, right? And not just branding it, but being it, right? So being the essence of willing to have those partnerships each and every day, and doing what it takes to be one with each other, I think is key. Because then at the end of the day, we can find our students in a better position to find success than not being one with the community.
And can I add to that? It's the story, right? It's the story about us. And as a building, as a school community, right? Because Brya talks about the physical shape of the building. That's not just it, but it's our story. It's the story that we're creating, and it's the story that we're telling so that everyone knows exactly who we are. It also reminds me of something that you said, Principal K, this summer. And I'm going to quote you. You had mentioned, are you using your voice to deliver the message that anchors the community culture? And so branding your school is really delivering the message that anchors your community culture. So I think of it as, and to Brya's point, like she describes it beautifully, it's the story that we're telling about who we are as a school community, as a school culture.
I love it. I love it. And as I always say, if we don't tell the story, the community will tell it for you.
That's
And
right.
they may tell a very different story than the one that you had intended on conveying. So it's so important. It's so important. Brya, last question on this. Is it too early for, we got a lot of assistant principals that tune in, as you know. Is it too early for an assistant principal to start thinking about branding before they become principal, or is this the time to start processing at least within one's mind about that future school? I'm not talking about their current school, but I'm talking about the one they may leave one day.
Well, I think that goes back to who you are as an educator, right? What is your brand? Because that travels no matter what your role is and no matter what school community you're in. So it's being clear on your mission, your values, your goals that you want to set and look to accomplish each and every day that you walk into your school community. And so that is transitional. You're right. It doesn't take you having to have your own building as a building principal to know the essence of who you are and what you want to bring to your school community and the impact that you want to have. So I think it's important before you even get there to know what is your brand, what is your voice, and why would those who are in the community, the stakeholders, right, within your school community, want to partner with you in carrying out that vision? Because once again, we have to work together as a village in order to see the true success of our students, because we need each other. So I think it's important to have that thought process and an understanding and awareness and self-reflection early on to carry with you throughout your leadership.
I love it. I got I'm winding down, right? In fact, I got one more question, but they got 2 or 3 parts to them for both of you. But before I do, both of you are business people as well, and I want the people to have your contact information before people start leaving. Let me start with you, Brya, because you got a few things going on, and which is inclusive of the fact you're a speaker, right?
Yes.
So tell them how to reach you.
Yes. So for those who are listening, I'm so thankful that you joined us today. There's many different platforms you reach me on. I'm on not only Instagram, but also Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. You can find me at Brya G. Potter, and reach out to me to connect. And I'd love to hear from you and see the work that you're doing and how we continue to be partners together to do this good work.
Good stuff. Now we're not leaving yet, y'all. Just want them to get that contact information out there. How about it, Dr. Potter?
Yes. So I am only on Twitter. I tell you, I got to get myself in other places, but right now it's only Twitter for me. And because I have done consulting work with some of our districts here in Monroe County and our Monroe County Sheriff's Office, we have only been placed where I think, and Brya has to help me because I can never remember, but it's Tasha _ Potter 5.
Yep.
And it is partners of BTP. That's my email, partnersofbtp@gmail.com. And I think it's the same for Twitter, right,
Mm-hmm.
Brya?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter.
There you go. And I'm gonna give them a chance. Those of you that may have missed that, we'll do it again as soon as we're done. We're winding down. I'm on the last question. Dr. Potter, I receive a lot of emails and inboxes. This is just ongoing. It's not a complaint. It's just a reality from a lot of people who are a lot of APs who are complaining about their current situation in their school as it relates to their relationship with the principal or their relationship with the team. So there's a lot of people who write to me and tell me they feel left out. They're not a part of the decision making. They're not part of the debriefing. They don't feel that they're a part of the team. Now, my question is, what is an AP to do, knowing that they can't wait for the principal to come in and change that reality? Because if that's what it is, that's the intent of the principal. So what can that AP do to change his or her reality in that setting?
Wow, that's a great question. So I'm thinking of a couple of things as you ask that question. First of all, when you talk about the idea of branding, you have to establish yourself in your role. And you also have to demonstrate confidence and vulnerability. You know, I heard you say earlier about how you've evolved over time, and I think we all have. You know, just those of us that have been in the game for a while, evolution is a part of the process. But if you're new to the work, you have to sometimes think about that relational capital. So establishing who you are, you know, continuing to have those conversations with the principal, even if you don't feel like you're invited into those spaces. But the spaces that you do have access to, that's where I'd say show up and shine. So if it's in the classroom with your teachers and with your faculty, if it's the relationships that you're establishing with your students and your families, there is a place in that school community for you. You have to find what space that is, though. But once you do, you have to be vulnerable in that place. And that's okay. Sometimes it's about telling people who you are and not needing to find ways to apologize for being your authentic self. Also, it means, you know, just moving forward in ways that demonstrate that your commitment is to the building, your commitment is to students and to your faculty and your families. And then I would always say, even though, you know, there may be some tension and some disagreement with our principal in some cases, if you're experiencing that, it's our role as leaders, as whether you're a building principal or a district leader, it's our role and responsibility to foster and grow our youngest, and I call them our baby leaders, our baby, you know, assistant principals, those that are entering into the work for the first time. So I'm hopeful that wherever that's happening, that they can get to a place where they can start to experience a positive relationship with the building principal. But in the meantime, if you feel like that's not happening, you need to just kind of show up and take that space that you know that you have access to and do your best in leading in those spaces.
I love it. What advice would you have there for the one that says, I'm done with this. I think I'm gonna go back to the classroom, because I get so many emails about that. What would you say to that person?
You know, I would say to that person, remember your why for choosing this pathway.
Yeah.
And if you feel, though, that the classroom is a place that's better suited for you, then of course we would encourage you to find the space that's going to bring you joy. But it goes back to a number of things that Brya said today. And I even heard you say last summer, it's about fighting the fight.
Yeah.
If your why is rooted in the need to fight the fight for students, stay steady in your why. And your choice for choosing the assistant principalship has nothing to do with anyone else. It had to do with something with you. It didn't have to do with the principal. It didn't have to do with district leadership. It had to do with you. There was something about that position that is so necessary. The assistant principalship is so integral to the happenings of everything in the building. And if the reason that you chose that, if your why, if you understand what that why is, I'd say stay steady in that why.
Yeah. Stay steady in your why. I mean, I couldn't have said it better. Because if you're not studying that why, then I got to ask, is that really your why?
Exactly.
Yeah. So you got to stay steady. Let me go to Brya. Last one, two-parter. Brya, there's someone out there in the world, someone that has seen you, knows you, someone that may have been introduced to you on this platform today that wants to be in your shoes. They want to be an assistant principal. They want to they want to show what they can do, but they can't get an interview. I'm not even at the part where they can't get the job based on the interview. They can't get the interview. What would you say to that person about hanging in there?
Well, I know we're in a very competitive, society, right? And so just not giving up in that, right? So holding on to going back to our why, right? So if you're committed and have this vision, desire to be an assistant principal, even with not getting an interview in that season, doesn't mean that you're not meant to do the good work. It is just timing is everything. So staying steady, being patient, continue to reach out and not give up on yourself, and staying strong to the reason to why you got into the role in the first place, into the learning and wanting to grow to be an assistant principal, and holding tight to that and having that be near and dear to you as you continue to face the struggle of having to find that interview. And it's networking yourself. Networking. I think it's important to, once again, what is your voice? What is your brand? And networking with those within the educational realm to show you what are some opportunities out there that you can take on. So not giving up, being willing to market, be steady, and networking with the right people to get yourself through the door and getting that interview. So not giving up.
That's powerful. And I got one more before we go to the BAM impact questions. There's someone else out there who is getting the interviews, but they've been on multiple interviews and can't seem to get past the interviews toward landing the position. What advice might you have for that person?
I would say digging within your community and trying to look for, if you already have it, a mentor who can give you advice and tips as you walk into an interview and what questions are going to be asked and what they're looking for as an assistant principal for you to embody. And so I know having my mother and my father, other educational mentors, helping me through that process of how do I share and vocalize my why in front of school districts, right? And what does that look like? As my start as a school counselor and the blessing of being able to stay within my district and continue the good work that I'm doing in a district that supports me as a leader, right? And so turning that over and connecting with those who have already done the work, who are in the work, and helping you to see areas of growth, areas of improvement, but also just encouraging you to not give up because you've had multiple no's. It does not mean anything about you. That does not mean that you're not able to still be in this environment and have this career. So not giving up on yourself and knowing that your time is coming. Your time is coming.
Yeah, time is coming. I love it. I love it. Let's go to those BAM impact questions. What I did was I divided them. So the first 10 will go to Brya and the last 10 will go to Dr. Potter. And then I'm going to give you both number 21, the last one.
You got it.
All right. So here we go. Dr. Potter. No, I mean to Brya. Is education on the right path for underserved children?
I believe that there has been some growth an understanding of the importance of having culturally relevant teaching and practices and a restorative approach in education, I think there is much more work to be done.
Can true equity occur in America's schools for Black, brown, and other underserved students?
Yes, it can if they're willing to do the work. If the educators within the school community are willing to create environments for all students to have equal opportunities to success, I believe with that commitment, there can be actual true change.
Does Brya Potter's work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Yes, it goes back to my why. I want to be the change that I wish to see in our school communities and to our world. And so being committed to creating those environments where our students have voice, are seen, are heard, are affirmed and loved and nurtured. That is what I do. That is my work. So I will not stop.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
It would be the same. I am blessed and have so much honor in doing the work that I do. I get to be in front of multiple students. That's my pulpit. That's my ministry, is reaching the hearts and the minds of each and every kid that I work with, and being a representation as a Black woman and Black leader for my students, especially my Black and brown students, to see themselves as able and capable. And so I believe so.
Why do you continue to do this work?
I continue to do this work because I believe that it is important for there to be someone, to be an advocate who's willing to be on that island at times and fight that good fight and work against the barriers and tackling those barriers for our students to find success. And so I believe that the work that I'm doing, creating opportunities for each and every student to have a space and a place to be seen and heard, is key to my work.
What fires you up within the work that you do?
What fires me up is seeing the beautiful Black and brown students each and every day look at me and seeing themselves and what they're capable of. And so representation matters. That is what drives me, is being able to represent, for our Black community and showing our students, all of our students, the possibilities. That fires me up each and every day.
What do you love about the work you do?
The relationships that I continue to build with my students, my staff, my families, and seeing growth each and every day. Growth, is something that I look at as longitudinal, right? And so it's not having to be in a race, but seeing the change that we can make each and every day, working together as a community. So that is what I find is really important, is relationships and the connections that I build with each and every kid and staff member and family.
What do you dislike about the work you do?
I think that's a very challenging question, because there's the work that I do in essence is challenging, but I don't find that I dislike much. I think the barriers that we face as educational leaders trying to create culturally relevant, classrooms and helping our staff to continue to build their arsenal and toolkits to reach every student and providing opportunities for all students to have equal access. I think that's a challenge. But something that's not that I dislike. It's just that continue to work with a village to find solutions for every student to have a voice and to be seen.
What has been your greatest victory in this work thus far?
I feel like my greatest victory is just seeing some students who come in with those multiple ACEs, right? And that trauma that they bring to the table and helping them to find wins in the school community and in their life. So I can go on about multiple stories that I've seen students find so much success who did not think they could. It's helping to retrain and help our students to think about that they are able and are capable. And so that is what I find as so important in my work, is helping students to see their futures.
And lastly, what was your greatest mistake in this work?
Greatest mistake. I think, being hard on myself. I'm new to this work. I've had over 6 years in education, and sometimes I can be easily difficult on myself. I am I would say my greatest critic. And so giving myself grace to make mistakes and to continue to work through the challenges of this role as an educator, but not giving up.
Good stuff. Dr. Potter, what was your greatest challenge? What has been your greatest challenge in this work?
I think the greatest challenge for me is the realization of how much more needs to be done in public education. So thinking about all of the ways in which we've shifted over time, but realizing that some of those things that we've done aren't making the impact that we still need to see.
Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal?
Yes, I am proud of my first year as an assistant principal. I think it was an opportunity for me to learn and understand who I was as an educational leader. It took a lot of time for me to, even within that first year, a lot of time for me to build capacity within myself, but then also to build those relationships that would last with me over the next several years. So, yes, I'm proud of that.
Are you proud of your first year as a principal?
Yes, I'm actually very proud of my first year as a principal because the building that I inherited at that time required a lot of systems and structures. And I think Brya had said, it's not a race. It truly was a marathon to build systems and structures and pay attention to the needs and processes in that building that really actually revolved around our students. So that first year was pretty powerful, and I think it also helped to shape me differently than I would have imagined. But now that I'm looking back at it, there was a lot that I can say makes me proud to have been a building leader.
Who inspires you in this work?
I continue to be inspired by Brya. When I look at people, particularly my own daughter, coming up in leadership and having so much promise and potential live in her and in other young people, I realize that everything that we've talked about relative to social justice and equity and paying attention to the action that we need to take in being social justice advocates and leaders, I am able to witness that every day in her. So she continues to inspire me to make it through this last leg of my career. But just knowing that people like her and her herself are here to pick up that torch and do the work when we're no longer in it.
Good stuff. What book are you reading right now? But no, let me change that. What are you reading right now? Could be book, blog, article, anything.
I'm always reading. One of the things that I said because of just finishing my dissertation this past year, I stay in something. Street Data by Shane Safir and Jamila Dugan. I've been reading a lot about that lately just because I want to make sure that we are amplifying student and faculty voices in our community. So that's one that I've been reading. And then another one, Toni Morrison. It's interesting because when I talked about the data at the start of the conversation, the research around the books that our students are reading in high school, they will read more texts and literature by white authors than they do Black authors. But The Bluest Eye, I read it years ago. I'm rereading it just because it was one that kind of resonated with me in my adulthood. And I think that those are the texts that I wish that our young people had access to now in schools.
Good stuff. Good stuff. What do you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished yet?
You had mentioned something. You were planting some seeds about a superintendency. I'll just say publicly, I don't think that that's a part of my journey, but I think that I'd like to continue and maybe even just one place that I'd love to see myself is teaching again. And it would be teaching at the post-secondary level because I want to help to shape our future and aspiring leaders. So I would love it once I retire from public education. I would love to be an assistant professor and maybe even before I retire, but I've got 5 years before that time. And between now and then, I'd just love to be in front of our aspiring administrators and leaders, future leaders, and help them understand the importance of being an assistant principal or being a principal or being a director and how we can empower them to take care of students in the ways that our students need to be taken care of.
All right. Are you satisfied with where you are professionally now?
Yes.
All right. What could you say to a viewer out there who continues to face closed doors?
You have to really look at the ways in which you get in the door, because a closed door doesn't have to remain closed always. You can find an entry. You just have to really kind of dig deeply to figure out how that entry, how you go about getting that entry. But I think if a door is closed, sometimes if it's closed, it may need to stay closed. But if it's one that you really know that you want to have access to, don't stop. and you continue to think about what it is that you can do to break that door down or to get your entry in through that door.
All right. And lastly, what could you say to a viewer out there who's lost their fire?
You know, we've talked a lot about why during this conversation. If you can remind yourself of your why for any of the work that you've done or plan to do or want to do, that fire will be, it can be ignited again. So I would say, don't think that the fire is gone, because there's something out there, whether it's through a conversation, whether it's through some of the research, whether it's through literature or an interaction that you may have with the members of your community, that can bring that fire back.
Love it. Lastly, and this one I'll go to you first, Dr. Potter. If Dr. Tasha Potter was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
A word in the dictionary. I'd probably say resilient. And yes, and the word in the dictionary, the reason why resilient resonates with me is because, like many Black and Brown people, we go through things in public education. And, you know, sometimes you have those negative experiences with your faculty or with the community, and you just have to stay steady, stay firm, and that resiliency will get you through those difficult times. And then you can remember again your why for doing what you're doing.
All right. And same question to Brya. If Brya Potter was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
So these past couple of seasons, for me, the word of excellence stands out because for me, excellence, it means, the quality of being outstanding or extremely good. But for when I resonate with that word excellence is how do I each and every day show up excellently? How do I put my best foot forward in the work that I do? And I'm one who gives it my all, knowing that I am imperfect and bring that to the table, but not willing to give up and willing to see things through and fight for what is right in a way that is excellent. So knowing that I don't want to leave anything to be unseen, untouched, unheard within my school community as an educational leader is making sure that I go to bat at the best that I can for the good of my students and do that in a way that resembles excellence.
So excellence or excellent and resilient. I love it. Hey, folks, we've come to the conclusion, and I want to thank you immensely for yet another powerful session. Week number 145. I appreciate you. I see I haven't even had to ask for the emojis. You all are already on it. But for those the family, the first timers, let them know. Hit us up with some emojis and let us know how you liked the session, if it was beneficial, if you enjoyed it, if it was useful. Let us know. And I see them, man. They're coming strong too. I appreciate that. There's my wife. I see in a little bit. Yeah,
Love it.
Yeah. Keep those emojis coming, and y'all know I don't travel with my big bag. I bring my little.
There we go.
Out the park, grand slam, four home runs, so four grand slams each. That's 32 runs, man. That's a whole lot of runs. Good stuff. Appreciate you. Let them know once again. How do they get in touch with you?
Yes.
Well,
thank you. Yes. Thank you, Principal K, for having us on. Being able to continue to grow in my learning as an educational leader from your work. It's a blessing and an honor. So to be on here today, to share my experiences has been just an amazing experience for me. So thank you. Thank you. So for those who are listening again, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn under Brya G. Potter or Brya Potter.
Very good. And Dr. Potter.
Yes. And likewise, I just want to acknowledge and celebrate you for the impact that you are making both locally and nationally for all of us. I think that there are people like you that we need in this work, in these conversations, leading these conversations and leading this work for us to always look for opportunities to improve, be better, but more importantly, to do better. So thank you for that. I've been watching every day how you're dropping another Black history message and just helping us learn about us And even for those people that don't look like us, they need to know about us. So just thank you for everything. Much appreciated. And for those of you that would like to contact me, I can be found at Tasha_Potter5. And my email is partnersofbtp@gmail.com. And I think that is also my Twitter account as well. So I have 2 Twitter accounts. But those of you, thank you for showing up and listening to Brya and I today. And again, okay, we are so grateful, so thankful. Thank you.
Great stuff. Now I'm gonna do my rundown. You all stay there, and when I sign off, please stay there. I want to talk to you off camera.
Okay.
Folks, appreciate you being here again for week 145. We got number 146 next week. I'll be coming to you live from Columbia, South Carolina. I won't be home again. So Columbia, South Carolina, I'll be live. But my guest, you don't want to miss this one. You don't want to miss any of them. But I got Frank Educational Gilmore. He's a councilman in Jersey City. He's a young guy, but his story and his message, you don't want to miss that. His story is so big that what's that comedian name that I'm having a mental block, man? What's the lady's name on ABC? They just canceled. Oh my God.
Megan.
No. The big time one. Oh my God. I can't believe it. My wife, Kim, what's the comedian's name that Gilmore was on? I don't know why I'm having a mental block. That means I'm sleep deprived. but she'll put, it's a 1-word name. Short hair, white, blonde. No, y'all, no, not that old school. Oh man, nobody remember. No, they from Whoopi Goldberg and Rose. No, come on, y'all know her. She got into the controversy. They canceled the show. Ellen, thank you.
Ellen DeGeneres.
Ellen. So my man was on Ellen's show, right? So, recently. So you want to check him out along with Christine Carter, whose story is also, these are very difficult stories when they were young, both of them. So I'm bringing them on together. They do not know each other, but it's going to be powerful. So join us next Saturday at 10:55 Eastern. Every Saturday, Facebook Live, Sean Hurt, 10 o'clock. Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor, 10:30. Sunday night, 7 o'clock, Unlock the Middle with Principal Josh Tovar and Dean Packard. And in the Village Leadership Group, Roz Gaskins, Coach Williams, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6. Now, I also talk about my man, Dr. Manny Scott. He's not part of our Fantastic Four, but he's on at 9:30. So check him out 9:30, but at 10 o'clock, switch over and come on over to Sean Hurt. That's important. The Assistant Principal 50 is Aspiring Principal 50. Go to Amazon and get those if you don't have them. And then while you're there, look at my other titles and maybe there's some other things you like. Principalkafele.com is my website, all my resources. Make sure you check it out. Subscribe to the Virtual AP Leadership Academy YouTube channel. Hit that red button, subscribe. We hit that 17,000 last week. Now I'm looking forward to getting to 18,000. So, keep on hitting that red button and subscribe if you haven't joined yet. And then you can binge watch the previous 144 sessions. Appreciate you, Keena. Good to see you. Right. So again, Virtual AP Leadership Academy YouTube channel, then the Virtual AP Leadership Academy Facebook page. Keep in mind, for those that don't know, this is not just a Saturday thing. This is Saturday and Sunday. Sunday is written, it's typed. I do a commentary, and I've done about, I think, 97 of them now, 97 or 98. But the only place you can see the commentary is on that Facebook page, Virtual AP Leadership Academy. I don't post it anywhere else. So you gotta hit that like and follow button, and that way you got it. And then lastly, as I always say, your diet, your exercise. Take care of it. COVID-19 precautions. Take care of yourself. I don't want to see you get yourself jammed up. So make sure you're eating right. I did go to a basketball game and ate more popcorn than I normally would. I went to see the Warriors play the Denver Nuggets. So, we had to, I had to take in the whole energy of being at the game. So, but I'm good now. And then, like one of them big tubs,
So, that's the best.
Yeah, a little bit too much, but At least I didn't go get a second one because I was finished that by the first quarter. So I wanted a second tub for the second half, but I fought it and I didn't get it. But best believe I wanted it, right? So take care of yourselves, and then I'll see you next Saturday, 10:55. Appreciate you all being here. Have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist back. Count to 3 with me. 1, 2, 3.
3.
Bam!
Yeah. Woo! Love it.
I appreciate y'all, man.
Thank you, Principal K.
You stay on.
Okay.